What's going on, Summoners? Welcome back to another Wild Rift video. I'm Kangas, and today I'm going over 5 OP picks for patch 2.1b on the Rift. These champions aren't necessarily the top 5 champs on the patch, but they're all top tier and should help you climb the ladder. So hit that sub button, and let's get into it. First up for today, we have the newly released champion, Leona. The Radiant Dawn is an extremely powerful support, and if you're looking for a new support to play with tons of crowd control and heaps of tankiness, this is the champ for you. Leona's first ability, Shield of Daybreak, is her bread and butter. It's a low cooldown auto attack enhancer that makes her next auto deal bonus magic damage and a stun. It also resets your auto attack timer, so make sure to abuse that in early all-ins for extra damage. Once you manage to engage onto the enemy with your Gap Closer Zenith Blade, you can follow up with your Shield of Daybreak, and since it's so low cooldown, you'll likely get another one off before the fight ends. Leona pumps out CC at all stages of the game, and it can be incredibly obnoxious to deal with her. Quicksilver Enchant is one of the best ways to get out of her combos, but it is a large chunk of gold investment into no combat stats, which gives a great advantage to the team playing with Leona. It's important to note that Leona's basic abilities are extremely committal engage. To fight, she must throw her body in, and if it's not a great engage, she might end up dying without her team being able to follow up. Fortunately, she does have her ultimate Solar Flare. Leona can call down a beam of energy that slows down all targets hit and stuns any at the epicenter. This is great for picking off isolated enemies and can be used to start off your crowd control chain. It can also be cast from range, which means that if it doesn't land or if it's not the best engagement, you can just back off. This adds a lot of versatility to Leona's kit, so she isn't too one-dimensional. Leona is also obscenely tanky in the early stages of the game while dealing a high amount of damage as a support. She's not doing more than the marksman in the lane, but if you weave your abilities together so that your opponent can proc every instance of your passive, your damage is not ignorable. Eclipse also gives Leona a substantial amount of armor, magic resist, and damage reduction, making her tough to take down in the early game. However, towards the end of the game, as your income slows down, Leona can often be demolished by powerful carries, so don't get too far ahead of yourself. Overall, she's packed with CC, great damage and tankiness, strong in lane, and an excellent team fighter. She can peel for her carries or lock up the enemy backline and functions well in almost any team composition. If you're looking for something fresh and strong in the support role, lock in Leona. If you haven't been seeing Ahri in your games, then I don't know what game you've been playing because she is absolutely overpowered, and if you're trying to climb the ladder, you should absolutely be picking her up. Ahri has a lot of strengths and is incredibly hard to punish, so don't be surprised if you end up losing when you face her. First of all, Ahri's wave clear is pretty decent. Orb of Deception allows you to quickly clear out waves, and 2 of these will make short work of any minions who dare enter your lane. You can also use it to poke out and heal up with your passive at the same time. If it's related to laning, Orb of Deception probably does it well. Ahri's third ability, Charm, sends out a kiss that damages and charms the first enemy it encounters. This ability might not seem too crazy on its own, but it's a decent defensive ability and is a great gank setup for when your jungler decides to pay you a visit. While those 2 abilities in isolation aren't too insane, when combined with their ultimate Spirit Rush, they become immensely powerful. Spirit Rush gives Ahri 3 casts of a short dash that fires 3 essence bolts towards nearby enemies. This is largely what makes Ahri so hard to punish, and is also what makes her so threatening. Locking down Ahri is a challenge, as it's a breeze for her to dodge any incoming abilities with Spirit Rush, and then re-engage afterwards with another cast. It's almost impossible to gank her, and while you can't kill her, you have to be constantly worried about her Spirit Rushing forward and landing a charm on you, leading to your swift demise. Ahri is one of the most ultimate reliant champions on the Wild Rift, but thankfully, level 5 comes pretty quickly. Once she gets her ultimate, she is super scary and can set up countless kills for her team. If she's ahead, she turns into a terrifying assassin, wiping out carries left and right. If she doesn't have the raw damage to take out anybody in her combo, she can still play with her team more, ulting forward to charm targets for her team to burst down. She's versatile, great at roaming with her jungler, and can team fight from any position. Before we continue with the list, make sure to join our Wild Rift Discord in the description box below and sub to the channel to keep up to date with all things Wild Rift. The next overpowered pick on 2.1b is Malphite in the Baron lane. He's been a staple pick in the Baron lane since release and has been mentioned in pretty much all of our lists. The Rock in the Baron lane will always perform well due to his powerful teamfighting ultimate, Unstoppable Force. No matter how terrible the situation is, how poorly your lane phase is, or how behind you are, you can always press R and you can always win. On the Wild Rift, even if you're feeding, you should always try to do your job. For Malphite, that job is simple. Group up with a squad and land a big ultimate. Unfortunately for the enemy Baron laner, Malphite doesn't just have one ability though. He's got many, and they make their life extremely difficult. First of all is his passive, Granite Shield. If Malphite hasn't been hit for 8 seconds, he gets a shield equal to 10% of his maximum HP. This shield is pretty powerful in the early game, making it really hard for the enemy Baron laner to chip down his health bar. At the same time, Malphite's first ability, Seismic Shard, is free harass that also slows down the enemy Baron laner, making retaliation hard. Thunderclap's enhanced auto attacks make Malphite's trades pretty powerful as long as they don't expend for too long, and Ground Slam slows the enemy Baron laner's attack speed down to the point where even the enemy wonders if it's worth trading with Malphite. He's got so many tools to negate the enemy Baron laner, and while champions like Gragas and Darius can still bully him, for the most part, Malphite can have a cruisy lane phase, farming up for his tank items to become the rock in the front of the fight, knocking up those unsuspecting carries, and just being an all-around menace. While Malphite isn't the #1 Baron laner on the patch, he is extremely powerful and especially powerful in Emerald and below. If you're new to the Baron lane or just want to pick up a team fighting powerhouse, try out Malphite and you'll have a good time. Before we get into the rest of the video, our question of the day is, what's your favorite newly released champion to play? For me, I've really been enjoying trying out Pantheon in the support role. Even though Leona is the hot new support on the block, I've been having a lot of fun trying out Pantheon in that role, but let me know your answers in the comments down below. Jinx originally came to the forefront due to her powerful synergy with Lulu, however, she's been proven to be an immensely powerful marksman even without her Yordle friend. Jinx is good at pretty much everything in the Wild Rift, with her only weakness being that she doesn't have a dash. However, if she knocks down an enemy and gets excited, Jinx moves so fast that it's hard to hit abilities on her anyways. She's great in lane and has the potential to deal crazy damage with her AoE crit rockets. In the early game, enemy dragon laners have to be constantly worried about being tagged by Jinx's second ability, Zap. It does quite high damage all throughout the game, but especially early, and the slow can lead into some brutal follow-up. Jinx's rockets also allow her to push waves out easily, and also harass from range when the enemy marksman tries to farm. Once Jinx reaches level 5 and unlocks her iconic Super Mega Death Rocket, existing in the dragon lane becomes really hard for the enemy team. While Jinx is known for pumping out DPS, her burst from Zap and Super Mega Death Rocket combined with her supports combo can often be enough to make the enemy marksman disappear. Jinx doesn't have any mobility spells, but she makes up for it with her raw damage. Once the items start to come through and she has a decent amount of crit, she is very scary. Her minigun autos come through so fast that any tank that steps up will be shredded in seconds, and once she lets her rocket rip, the rest of the team will be a cloud of pink mist shortly after. Jinx's team fighting is insane, and as long as her team can protect her from the enemy divers like Camille and Akali, she is going to carry. Jinx's biggest enemy is crowd control abilities like Command Shockwave and Unstoppable Force, so as long as her frontline can keep her safe, she's good to go. Jinx is super OP right now, so lock her in, tell your team to peel for you, and you're in for a good time. And our last pick for you today is another marksman, our Vestian friend, Xayah. She is also absolutely dumpstering most things that are brave enough to step up in the dragon lane against her. While Xayah doesn't possess the raw laning potential of champions like Misfortune or Draven, her trading potential cannot be underestimated. If you misstep in lane, Xayah will rip countless feathers through you, dealing massive damage and rooting you for easy follow-up. As long as Xayah has enough mana, she can trade with the enemy marksman with little repercussions. Double daggers into Blade Caller deals sizable damage, especially when she has a bit of AD under her belt. This is especially hard to deal with as the damage comes from a very long range. Xayah presents few opportunities for the enemy to punish, and if they do try to step up, she will just keep laying down feathers with her auto attacks, setting up for a massive Blade Caller. Xayah's main weakness is champions that outrange her, not champions that can aggress on her. Xayah's damage output in teamfights is pretty similar to Jinx's, and while Jinx may have the slight edge, Xayah has far more burst and deals far better with champions coming into her. Featherstorm can be used to avoid enemy crowd control for crucial abilities, and the feathers it lays down make it really scary for anyone to approach. If they do try, they will be rooted up and bursted down from the feathers, making them easy pickings for Xayah to finish off with a flurry of auto attacks enhanced with deadly plumage. Xayah has immense potential for solo carrying and is way less team reliant than Jinx. In a hypothetical perfect world with teammates drafting Peel and frontline for Jinx, she can almost always function. However, this is the Wild Rift, and that rarely happens. Xayah's high level of self-sufficiency and self-peel is so useful, and allows her to navigate teamfights that most other marksmen simply couldn't. Fed assassins can make playing Jinx impossible, but for Xayah, it's just another day and just another win. Xayah is also very versatile inside of the game and can be played in a wide variety of ways. Her feathers and Blade Caller are great for clearing out waves, so she can lane safely and stall out the game in the mid game. She's great at carrying when playing with enchanters, and can also combine well with champions like Leona or Alistar to dominate lane and then be safe while they roam. She's a great pick in almost every scenario, and if you haven't been spamming this champion already, get on it. I don't know what you're doing. It's not free wins, but you'll carry some games you never would have imagined possible. All of these champions can not only help you climb the rank ladder, but they're also pretty fun to play too. It's funny how sometimes we can forget that it's important to actually enjoy the game as you grind, because otherwise what's the point? Anyway, thanks for watching everybody. Remember to like the video, sub to the channel, and answer our question of the day in the comments down below. But most importantly, as always, best of luck on the Rift. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time. That wasn't even loaded. Oh, it was loaded. It's just not shooting anything. All of these champions can not only help you climb the I don't know what's happening.